The front runner, Hugh Jackman.
Yes, who was on talking about that other film of his a while back, which we were right on it. We were absolutely right. We both said, Great Showman, it's going to be a hit. Toe-tapping songs.
Okay, so Al Gore, when they were doing the publicity tour for An Inconvenient Truth, and in fact it's in this, I saw An Inconvenient Truth in Cannes, and Al Gore introduced it, and I think the joke is also in the film. He said, I'm Al Gore, I used to be the next president of the United States, okay? Mm-hmm. Good joke. So this is a film about Gary Hart, who for a brief period in the late 1980s could have made the same claim that he used to be the next president of the United States. He's a strong contender for the nomination. He looks like he's on course for the White House. He's charismatic, and he has a great way of talking, and he can speak coherently, without notes, in full joined up sentences. Such a long time ago. And then suddenly his sort of rise seems to be derailed by rumours of an extramarital affair. A newspaper is tipped off that he's having an affair, and the next thing is he's being followed by journalists who stake out his house and see somebody coming into his house but not going out of his house, and put two and two together and decide that he is indeed having an affair. And they then confront him in a side street. But at the same time as they confront him, they're kind of arguing with themselves and with him about whether or not this is news, whether or not this is valid, whether or not this actually matters.
I can assure you, Senator, this is relevant.
It's just that we saw you leave and come back with this woman, and we didn't see her.
Tom, you can't be serious. No one is staying in my home. There's no need for that, all right?
I am serious, sir. How long have you known this woman?
What kind of questions are these?
Is she a friend?
I don't know why I would tell you that, Tom. I am not going to...
Can you produce her to corroborate what you're saying
here? I
here?
don't have to produce anything. This has gone on long enough.
Said, we know you've made calls to this woman from Kansas and New Hampshire.
Well, I make calls every day. I don't see how I'd remember.
Senator, was that your announcement speech? Okay, you said we must hold ourselves accountable to the highest possible standards of integrity and ethics. Then why are we standing here? Why are we standing in an alley on a Saturday night? I mean, don't you think you owe it to us to be forthcoming?
Owe you?
You're denying what we've seen with our own eyes.
The only thing I deny is the idea that somehow you have the right to ask me these things.
You're running for president.
I'm aware of that, Tom. It's in the papers.
Well, you have a responsibility.
I know full well what my responsibilities are. Do you know yours?
So that, in a nutshell, is the thesis of the film. Is the film posits this as being a turning point in the evolution of the political and media landscape. Certainly in terms of the way that the film portrays it, this is the moment at which personal becomes public, at which private life becomes something that's in public domain. And there are very sort of specific references to the fact that in the past you had presidents like JFK who, were given a very, very easy ride. Despite what everybody knew about what was going on in their personal lives, this wasn't seen as important. What was seen as important was whether or not they were successful leaders. And the movie posits this as a turning point. And stylistically, it owes quite a lot to films from the 1970s, like, for example, All the President's Men. It's a lot of long lenses. It's a lot of overlapping conversations. In fact, I have to say at the very beginning, when you're being introduced to a large number of characters, often in sort of campaign rooms, trying to work out policy and that sort of stuff. There's a lot of people talking over each other, and actually there were moments where you think, "Hang on, I'm sorry, I'm getting lost here. I actually wouldn't mind being led by the hand a little bit more through what's going on." But both the strength and the weakness of the film are its subject matter. I think that the question about whether or not the public and private lives are interconnected is an interesting subject for drama. The problem with this is that it in a way seems a little bit like it's a bit of a shoulder shrug in the end. And there's two reasons for that. I think that Hugh Jackman's performance is very good. I mean, I think he does make I believed in his character. There's a certain amount of wigginess going on, but I did believe in the character. But in terms of where we are now we are now in a world in which it is perfectly possible for somebody to have the highest office with a huge amount of scandal behind them, and it is evident that the voters are no longer that bothered. For better or worse, they aren't. So in a weird way, the movie is kind of positing a sea shift in terms of the way in which we judge our politicians. There's a lot of stuff with Gary Hart's character saying, so this is it. So from now on, there's going to be no privacy. There's going to be everything is going to be out there on show. And, is this a good thing? Do you think that's really, what are you, tabloid journalists? Are you reporting on that or are you reporting on the news? But it's kind of peculiar that in a way that seems to have happened at a point when, yes, it is absolutely true that all this stuff is out there, but we're also living in a moment in which that stuff seems to have less traction than ever before. So although I thought that the film itself had some interesting ideas, and it is not, it's a film which isn't scared to talk about those ideas, for me, it sort of lacked a sucker punch. It lacked a dramatic blow that I felt at the end of it, okay, it's raised some interesting things, but it didn't do much more than that. Now, you've seen it as well.
Yeah, and it was right up my street, I thought, because it was American politics. I remember the Gary Hart story. Hugh Jackman is a wonderful actor, but it was a little bit so what at the end. I could see that they were trying to make it a conversation about what we're entitled to know and what we're not entitled to know. But I think that ship sailed a very, very long time ago. And he was a possible president for about 5 minutes. And after that, you think, well, he didn't really achieve much, and now he's not going to achieve anything, and that's it.
So,
and it stopped.
So did you get the same as me? The sense of there is interesting stuff in here, but somehow because I mean obviously the film is based on a true story, but it's the way in which you tell any story that's important. That what it lacks is a dramatic thrust.
Yeah, I'm not sure that there was a movie in it. To be honest, I don't think so.
That's the most damning of. I'm not sure there was a movie in it.
He was a front runner for a bit, and then he wasn't.
Okay, but do you think that it's what it's raising is relevant to today, or do you think it's kind of?
Sure. I mean, I guess the most interesting thing about his performance is the fact that he right until the end, he completely refuses to accept that anyone has any right to know what he's up to.
Yeah.
Whether he's having an affair or he's not having an affair is none of your business. And he doesn't seem to move from that at all.
But don't you think there is also something kind of quite quaint about the idea of holding somebody up to the highest moral standard? So he says, you are running for president. You have to be held up to the highest moral standards. And it's weird that in the current environment, those kind of discussions do seem peculiarly quaint.
Anyway, it's worth watching.
Okay.
Or you could just go and see Poppins again. Anyway.